Hey guys, so today I wanted to do a video about my coming out, and I'll try and do it in a more feminine voice than I have in some of my most recent videos. I haven't really been trying that hard. I got a really nasty comment on my last video about it. It wasn't really great to get that, but I think it kind of kicked me in the ass a little bit and made me think about trying to refocus on my voice. So I'm trying a little bit here. I know it probably doesn't even sound any better than the last couple, but I guess all I can do is keep trying. I know I just need to practice. Anyway, today I wanted to talk about coming out. I wanted to tell my coming out story. I haven't really discussed a whole ton of personal, like my personal history, so I wanted to do that a little bit. I first came out, the first person I came out to was my brother. I have a twin brother. I came out to my twin brother almost a year ago now, so in September of last year. So 10 months, I guess. Um, I came out to him. I'll be honest, it was one of the toughest things I've ever done in my life. It's something that I built up for my 27 years prior to that, thinking about how I would tell him, what I would say, how I would say it. But it finally just got to the point where I'd been through therapy. I had started hormones. I had been on hormones for a month, and I realized that I just needed to do it. I just need to get it out, to tell him. Um, in retrospect, it really was so silly that it took me so long. I knew my brother would be accepting of me. I knew that it wouldn't be an issue. It was a lot of it really had more to do with accepting myself than it did uh, knowing or thinking whether he would accept me or not. Um, so I got out to dinner with my brother and his husband. So my brother's gay, which is like another reason why I don't know why I was so scared because he's obviously, liberal and gay friendly and trans friendly, like he's had trans friends before. So I had gone out to dinner with my brother and his husband, and we went back to his house later on and had a few drinks, a few glasses of wine, and then I went upstairs to their guest bedroom to go to bed, and my brother followed me up there to talk for a minute because he like sensed I was a little upset, and I basically just ended up breaking down and telling him what I was upset about. He almost kind of guessed it. He said, what's wrong, Chris? Chris is my guy name. He said, what's wrong? And he said, is it about your sexuality? And I said, no, no, not really. He said, is it about your gender? And I said, yes. I shook my head, yes. And then we just ended up talking, and I ended up telling him everything about how I felt and what I was doing and what I wanted to do and what I planned on doing. And he ended up just hugging me and telling me that he loved me and he was sorry that I had had to go through that alone for so long. He ended up telling his husband that night, and we talked a little bit about it, and he was accepting as well. And that was the first person I told. So from there, I promised my brother that I would tell my parents within the next month, because I didn't think it was fair having him feel like he had to keep a secret from me. And that was another part of the hesitation for me in not telling him, is that I knew that once I told him, I would have to basically tell my parents, and then once I told my parents, I would really have to start telling everybody. So I promised him that I would tell my parents within the next month. And that's exactly what I did. So about 3 weeks later, I went over to my parents' house for dinner, and I had wanted to tell them the whole time I was there, but I just got too scared. I couldn't do it. So on my ride home, I was thinking about it and feeling really awful about not having had the courage to tell them. And excuse me, when I got home, I just decided to call my mom and ask her to come over to my apartment. And she did. I had never asked her to do this before, so I think she knew something was up or something was really wrong. So she came over, and we sat down on the couch together, and I handed her my cell phone, which had an email that I had written to her, um, I guess maybe a week prior, because I had thought about emailing them and telling them, but then I ended up deciding it just wasn't personal enough. But I didn't think in person I would be able to say it everything that I wanted to say without like crying or having to stop. So I wrote it all down and I handed her my phone and I had her read it off of my phone. And she read it and she gave me a hug and basically said something similar to what my brother had said, which was, "I'm sorry you had to go through this for so long alone, and I'm sorry that you didn't feel that you could talk to me about it." And she was wonderful about it, and she's been wonderful ever since, just like my brother has been. I'm incredibly lucky. Um, the next day, she told my dad for me. I didn't really feel like I could tell my dad. It's probably a cowardly thing. I didn't know how to put it to him. I didn't know how to frame it for him without it just seeming crazy. My dad's kind of a man's man type guy, and I knew that this was something that would be difficult for him to understand. So my mom told him, and then the next day he came over to my apartment to talk about it. We ended up talking for a couple hours about how I felt and what my plans were, and it ended up going. It was really hard, and we both ended up like crying and having a really difficult conversation. But it ended up with basically him saying that he loved me no matter what, and he would support me, and even if he doesn't fully, completely understand this, he's there for me, and that's the biggest thing. So that was telling my immediate family, and that was really the hardest part for me. Once I got through that, I think that was actually the hardest part of transition so far, was coming out to my first couple people who were my family. Uh, from there, it only got easier. After that, I told a few close friends who I thought would be supportive. Um, and it just kind of snowballed from there. Over the next 6 months, I ended up telling most of my close friends that were local. And then about 3 months ago, I just sent a mass email to all of my college friends on Facebook and told them that way. And since then, I've come out to more extended family, all my coworkers and new friends that I've made, obviously. And it almost got to a point where it was fun to come out. I wasn't, I had a large enough support system and enough people that I knew that were okay with it and supportive of me, that I didn't really feel like, I didn't feel as scared coming out, because it didn't feel like I had quite as much to lose. So it almost became like, well, I wonder how this person will respond to this, and I hope that we can be closer friends because of it, rather than worrying, whether or not I'd lose their friendship. And honestly, out of all of the people that I've told, which is probably 100 or so now, pretty much everybody I know or am in immediate contact with in my everyday life, I haven't had a single bad response, which I feel a bit guilty saying, because so many trans people have the opposite experience. They have so much difficulty and bad reactions from, especially from family, and that wasn't the case for me. I feel really, really blessed about it. Um, and really, I should have given them more credit, and I think that's one thing, if I could pass along that, give your family a little bit of credit for loving you through this. I think a lot of times they'll be more supportive than you think they might be. That's not to say there aren't a lot of instances where they won't be supportive, or it won't end up well, and only you can really make or come to that conclusion about whether or not it's worth it for you to tell them. But time and time again, I realized in retrospect that I should have given the people that I came out to more credit in terms of being open and accepting and loving. Anyway, that was it for this one. I'll talk more about it next time. But thanks, guys.